Hey, hi you guys. Good morning again and welcome to the channel. I am trying to shoot a couple of these videos in advance till I get past this hip issue. I'm still using my walker and I appreciate your prayers. I'm looking forward to going to the streets, looking forward to proclaiming Christ. And I have a question for you. What was your last conversation with God like? What was in that conversation or that prayer? Because here in Genesis, we're in chapter 44, and there's a conversation that takes place that I think is going to be true for every man, every woman. Joseph has he's set his brothers up because he's trying to figure them out. He's trying to help them understand exactly what they did to him and yet how God still used it. But here Joseph puts the money bags back in their sacks. He puts his cup back in Benjamin's sack, or in Benjamin's sack. And then when they catch, after they've left Egypt, Joseph sends some people out after them, and they bring them back. And Joseph says, "What deed is this that you have done? Did you not know that such a man as me certainly practices divination?" And Joseph is telling him, hey, I could see that you did it. And that's really the heart of evangelism. God is saying, I can see what you're doing. I can see where you've been. And here the brothers of Joseph are confronted, and they are just speechless practically. They don't know what to do now. They here's how they respond. Then Judah said, "What shall we say to my Lord?" That, that in our evangelism, we ought to be praying. Our conversation with the Lord one of them should be, Lord, those who hear today when I proclaim Christ, may they respond this way, the way Judah is responding right now. Again, listen to what he says. What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? How do I clear myself? I'm a sinner who's going to stand before Almighty God. That's the response or evangelism, and only God can bring that response from men. It won't matter how clever we get or how we think we're going to phrase it just right. Proclaim His word and let God be God. Let Him convict the man, the woman. But that conversation is going to happen to every man where they are confronted with the question, what shall we do? And of all the people on the face of the earth, believers are the only group, Christians are the only group of people who have the answer. We're the only group that is saying, turn to Christ. Look to Christ, what He did at the cross, the sin that He took away from us and put on Himself at the cross. Look to Him. In no one else will God be satisfied. We have the answers. When somebody starts saying, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I get out of this predicament that I am in because of sin? And I love this in Genesis 45, 7 and 8. listen to what Joseph, after Joseph reveals himself to his brothers and he's making peace with them, they are totally spent. They are totally convinced that God has exposed their sin. And we ought to be totally on our face before God, saying, thank you that you have rescued me from sin. And here's what Joseph says: and God sent me before you to preserve a prosperity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a good deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. It was not you who sent me here, but God. And in your evangelism, in my evangelism, every encounter, whether it's a 10-second encounter or a 10-minute encounter or a 10-hour encounter, we ought to be saying in our mind, in our heart, we ought to be saying to others, God sent me here for your sake. Okay? Go before him, have a conversation with him on your knees, and bring the needs of this dying world before him, and ask him to use you. He wants to, and he will be with you. God bless you. Let's go tell somebody.